The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, we got a big show lined up for you today. Ollie Lane will join us, and we love visiting with Ollie Lane, the former Vol. He's given us fantastic insight into the program. And yes, I'm going to give you the latest in just a moment on Nico Iamaleava, and I feel very certain about my reporting. He is listed as questionable, but I'll give you more input than that. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Also, we're going to take a peek into the goings on at Gainesville, as it is just an absolute hot mess. Pat Dooley will join us. They've got a stalker basketball coach. They've got a detail-oriented and competent football coach that perhaps they can't get rid of because of administration problems. Does that sound familiar? Yes, it probably does and should, because what I have learned, and I didn't know this because throughout my career, there was strong leadership at the top with the University of Tennessee. So I never really saw Tennessee not have strong leadership. One could probably criticize some things that the late Mike Hamilton did, rest his soul, but it still was, there was a direction. You knew there was a direction until he lost power after Lane Kiffin left. So Florida's a hot mess, guys, and it's not going to get a lot better, and that's big for Tennessee. But primarily we'll talk about Tennessee, Florida, as you know. Portions of the program brought to you by our good friends of Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I am good today. Just a little quip. Linkin Park dropped a new album this morning with their new lead singer.
Oh, that's great.
Not a bad album, actually.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Just curiously, you may not be a fan, but what are your thoughts on, like, if a lead singer tragically passes away, as Linkin Park's did? Is it disrespectful to replace them, and should you just only live in the past, or is it okay to replace them and still do new music?
I think the better way is probably what Dave Grohl did. You know, just started his own new thing. But I'm not going to begrudge, let's say, Leonard Skinner or AC/DC, who had to replace their various members of their bands for different reasons. So, I don't know.
Big debate about it. People think it's disrespecting Chester's legacy.
Oh, Chester. All right, Caleb Calhoun, let's go ahead and get to it. Happy Friday to you and yours. The poll question is up now, and we're kind of going off topic on the poll question to have a little bit of fun, because I can't help it. I've gotten sucked in. Who wins, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul? I'll give you my thoughts a little bit later in the program, but I'm going to tell you right now how and why Tennessee beats Georgia. And when did I make this pick, Caleb?
Well, you officially came out with it this morning, but you have had a feeling on this for about a week, I would say.
Yes, since Monday. And I don't gamble, but when I have these strong feelings, I'm usually pretty right. I'm about 80%. And I just feel like this is the time that Tennessee is due, that this is a monumental win, and it will compare to the Alabama win in 2022. Some would say that it would be bigger than the Alabama win in 2022. We'll discuss that. 4 Downs now, and it's brought to you by Banks & Jones. We're represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
4 Downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Four Downs, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
It's not about me, but if I may say so, check out the Vol Report, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning with Cooper Mays, as we recorded that yesterday. It's one of the best, and it has to do with the interview subject. And I gleaned that there was confidence there. Now, I'm not saying that Cooper came out and said either on or off the record that we're going to go down and beat the hell out of Georgia. No, he didn't tell me that. I think a lot of people think that I ask Cooper a lot of things.
Why is that your accent for so many people? We're going to go down and beat the hell out of. That is not how Cooper May sounds.
I don't know. It's just basically Ed Orgeron for everybody, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. It's like it's a more polished Ed Orgeron.
Yes.
Because honestly, Ed Orgeron sounds crazier than even that. But
Very true. And I do want to take a quick second. One of my best friends had a heart issue, and my stepdad had a pacemaker put in. So there's been a lot of people out there praying, and if you'd have continued to do so, I would greatly appreciate that. Click the thumbs up button if you'll pray for Dave, because I've been a little bit through the ringer this week, and I did ask my dad. I said, "Hey, do you mind if you put off major heart issues outside of football season, and in particular Georgia week when Tennessee's quarterback is hurt?" And he said he'll work on that in the future. So maybe I won't be sidetracked as much as I have been during the most important week of the year. But here we go. 4 reasons why Tennessee beats Georgia. And I go to the one, the only Cooper Mays to tell us what to do. Oh, Cooper, I didn't hear you. Say it again.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, Coop, first down.
Coop here. First down.
All right, let's get to the news about Nico Iamaleava. Here's what I've been told via various sources. He has passed initial concussion protocol, a second concussion protocol. There will be another one likely given before the Georgia game. So is it 100% that he will play? Probably not, but it's about 99.9%. And I have been told that he has practiced throughout the week just as normal. So I think there's a lot of concern about concussions, and I think that that's warranted. But I do feel like with the Will Smith movie and all that, it probably went a little too far. So he's not going to play if he still has concussion-like symptoms, which he doesn't as of this moment that you're watching this live, weekdays at 10 a.m. But, Caleb, every indication I've gotten is that Nico Iamaleava will play. Now, could he take a hit on the shoulder? Could he take a hit that knocks him out of the game? Yes, theoretically. However, reason number one, Coop, what down is that?
Coop here. First down.
I think even with Gaston Moore, Tennessee has an advantage at quarterback. And here's why I say that. Now, I say this with a caveat. Carson Beck has thrown a staggering 12 interceptions this season after just 4 last year, 9 in his last 4 games. Also had a loose handle and a fumble last week as well. Now, I say that, it's worth noting that all of Beck's turnovers have been on the road. Okay, so he may go to Athens and may play mistake-free, but I don't believe that. I believe, and we'll get to this a little bit later, I believe without a Brock Bowers and the McConkey receiver that they had last year who are doing great things in the NFL, I believe he's being asked to do more than would be ideal in a Kirby Smart team. They don't ask their quarterback theoretically to do as much as, say, Josh Heupel does. So because of that, I give quarterback play, and this is with 95% Nico playing, 5% Gaston Moore playing. I give quarterback play the advantage to Tennessee. And I think that not only Nico is going to play, but I think he's going to play very well. Caleb, your response to down number one?
I actually mostly agree with you. I think the quarterback advantage is clearly Tennessee's. And, you bring up a decent point, which is that, yes, it is true. Carson Beck has had all of his turnovers on the road. But I think some of that's just timing. Carson Beck has just gotten progressively worse over the last few weeks. And they've just happened to be on the road more. I mean, they were away from home for Florida. That was a neutral site game. And then they were at Ole Miss. And Dave, honestly, that Florida game, I want to point out, because of the status of the programs right now, and we're going to talk to Pat Dooley about this later, it was kind of a home game for Georgia, wasn't it? I mean, it's a neutral site game, but there were way more Georgia fans at that game.
No, absolutely. And it still befuddles me why they even agreed. Do you know why they had that game in Jacksonville?
Because it's the greatest cocktail party ever obviously.
Well, no, it's because a lot of their richest boosters are in Southeast Georgia. So they want to be able to go to a game that's more convenient. That's stupid. If you want your team to be at its best, you want half of those games at Sanford Stadium. Sorry.
So those rich boosters can't afford to just go to Athens?
Well, they do, but I guess they want one short road trip.
Is this why when Alabama played their marquee games in Birmingham for so many years, all the business people lived in Birmingham and didn't want to have to go to Tuscaloosa for the game?
I can't speak specifically to that one, but it sure sounds like it. What down's next, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Oh, that's third down.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
There you go. Second down, Coop. What are we doing? Second down is this, and that is, this sounds weird, injuries. I think they favor the Vols, again, because I think Nico Iamaleava is going to play. And then we hear that Trevor Etienne, the star tailback for the University of Georgia, is out. The Bulldogs also have two other running backs that are questionable. I mentioned they're not very good at the skill positions. Now, again, to be transparent, receiver Dante Thornton is listed as questionable, but Caleb, honestly, he's probably been Tennessee's best receiver, but they haven't had an elite receiver throughout the season. Perhaps that's because of other issues on offense. Perhaps that's just because we overrated them, but they have depth there. So as long as no one else goes down and now Squirrel White is healthy, I think the skill positions favor the Vols. Big time, actually.
Yes, and it's funny you bring up Trevor Etienne because he torched Tennessee last year while playing for Florida. He had 172 yards on the ground. Tennessee could not stop him. It's a big deal that he's out in this game. And I mean, honestly, the duel might have been Dylan Sampson versus Trevor Etienne when we all thought at the beginning of the year it'd be Nico Iamaleava versus Carson Beck. But it's now neither because Trevor Etienne is hurt and Iamaleava and Carson Beck are not yet right now the stars we thought they would be.
All right, let's get to third down. Get your down straight, Coop.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
D travels. Guys, we could sit there and argue and debate that the 2022 team is more fun to watch, but this team is better equipped to go win a big-time road game against a quality opponent in a raucous environment. The Tennessee's defense still hasn't given up 20 points in a game this season, ranks second in the SEC just behind Texas in yards allowed at 272 yards per game. This is just a team that will be in the game, I joked, tongue-in-cheek, if Navy Schuler has to play quarterback. But in all honesty, if he did, I don't think the Vols would get beat by more than 10. I think Tennessee's in the game no matter what happens because of this defense.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's actually one thing that sets it apart from the last 2 years playing Georgia. Because, 2 years ago, 27-13, that was not a 27-13 game. We've discussed that at length. Tennessee struggled 2 years ago because their receivers couldn't get separation from Georgia's defensive backs, and that's what their entire offense was predicated on. So they lost that game the minute kickoff happened. The minute the rain started falling, they lost that game, honestly. And last year, they just had so many other issues. This year, you're right. If Georgia is able to, if Tennessee can't get the separation in the passing game, which we don't think they will because it's not like they haven't done much of it this year, Tennessee's defense is going to give Georgia hell. I mean, I'm seeing, Dave, I'd be shocked if Tennessee didn't have 3 sacks in this game at a minimum.
You're a gambler. Okay, I'm going to get to sacks, actually. You're a gambling guy. Let me ask you this question. Can you get a bet on whether or not, you can bet on anything, right? You can bet on the presidential election with this new app that they have. So you can bet on anything. By the way, Trump won. And you can bet on anything, but could you bet theoretically on the Vols give up less than 23.5 points? And I'm curious, if so, where would you put that number?
Yeah, I could bet on that. I would bet on that. I would set it at
Is
19
that an
and a half.
option out there? I'm curious.
Well, let's see. Tennessee, I can actually do the math in my head right now. Georgia spread over under. I'm not pulling up FanDuel on my phone. See, the over under is set at 48 and a half points, but the spread is Georgia minus 10 and a half. So we're talking Georgia winning this game, according to the spread, 29 to 19, 29 to 18. I mean, 30 to 19, either 29 or 30 to 19. Basically.
Okay, so for funsies, if I put the over under at 23 and a half points that Georgia scores, which would you take?
I take the under. And honestly, based on how the spread is setting it, Vegas is saying that Georgia's going to score close to 30 points, which is mind-boggling to me.
Yep. Okay, I agree. Now, by the way, that number was like 9 points higher on a Sunday, so you could have gotten great undervalue earlier in the year. All right, my final reason why Tennessee beats the University of Georgia in an upset and an epic win by the Vols in 30 seconds. So the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
SEC Center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Before we go forth, I do want to add Tennessee on that defense. They average 2.3 sacks per game. If they pressure Carson Beck, because if you get 2 sacks, you probably got like, 6, 8 pressures in addition. If you get home to that, you're going to have pressures. He'll turn the ball over 2 or 3 times, and that's your ball game. So lastly, run it up. The Vols debacle in Athens in 2022 was partly due to the inability to communicate. I think former Vol Eric Ainge got the Dogs stirred up a little bit. I don't think he said anything this week. And Sanford Stadium used to not be a loud venue. It is now a loud venue. But I think it's much more difficult to communicate when you're in the passing game than it is just to say, hey, we're going to run the football and take this crowd out of the game. Again, this goes back to how this team is better equipped to beat a quality team on the road. And part of that, you can call it boring. You can say it's not as good as back in 2022. But the simple fact is, this team, if they need to, they can shorten the game. I don't think they'll necessarily need to, but if the defense is able to turn Carson Beck over, produce perhaps an easy score at any point in the game, the Vols can win another way. They couldn't do that in 2022. They had to outscore Georgia, and at the end of the day, the Vols communication didn't go well. They don't want to admit that because it's almost like you're saying, oh, we weren't prepared, and that's the last thing a coach ever wants to say, but that's a fact. They had problems communicating, and Georgia was just better. I mean, Georgia's defensive backs were elite. Georgia is not elite defensively. They aren't bad, but they're just 6th in the SEC in rushing defense, allowing 111 yards per game. This isn't an elite defense by Georgia's standards, Caleb. They're about middle of the pack. So that and Tennessee's ability to run the football is why I've got Tennessee beating Georgia 23-20. Caleb, what do you think of my breakdown? Anything I left out that you would have put in there?
I think what's shocking is you're basically saying Tennessee's winning this game because they have the edge in the trenches and, on the line of scrimmage. Who thought that with Tennessee versus Georgia at the beginning of the year at all? Who would
have thought that going back to 2021? I think that Tennessee has the edge in the trenches. I think it's very close in overall talent. Now, that sounds incredibly crazy. The thing that I didn't throw in there, because it's kind of hard to put a finger on, is it feels like to me that the wheels could be coming off. You have Trevor Etienne not playing. I don't want to get in too deep into that, but that's kind of a surprise. Is he about done? And then you have the whole celebrating with the Ole Miss fan and Kirby Smart calling an idiot, that player an idiot. Well, I can tell you that didn't play well in the locker room. And that's why he came out and apologized the next day. So it just feels like this Georgia team, and I didn't include that in my 4 reasons why Tennessee would win, Caleb, but it feels like the wheels could be coming off for Georgia. Now, on the flip side, maybe they circle the wagons and play a great game against the Vols, and that could happen. But boy, it's again a 2-loss Georgia team, so their history would not indicate as much. They should have rallied against Ole Miss if they had a championship medal to them.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a very, very, very big concern and issue. And look, I won't just talk about the way Kirby Smart's lost the team on that. I mean, Dave, Kirby Smart may have lost the team in the way that if Nick Saban called a player an idiot, the team would respond and respect him, right? They would be like, okay, we need to get this fixed.
Well, let me stop you right there. He wouldn't have.
That's a good point.
Kirby Smart lost his cool. That was poor.
That's very true. Okay, so Nick Saban, put it this way. If Nick Saban would have called the player out and made him feel bad, and then the team would have responded and respected Nick Saban. Is that fair to say? He wouldn't have called him an idiot, but he would have said something to him or gotten on to him. Put it that way. However he got on to him, the team would have responded and respected it, and that kid would have realized his wrongness. Is that fair to say?
I think he would have said, I'm not going to address anything like that. It's rat poison. We're going to move on. And
but he would have talked to the player directly.
Yeah, he would have talked to him directly, but he may not even needed to. I just think that team was so led by its players that and listen, we're not going to get into this, but after the kick 6, there's a clip where AJ McCarron talks about one of the players for Alabama did number 2 in the kicker's shoe.
Defecated in his shoe.
Yes. And filled it all the way up. So the guy puts on his sock, sticks it in his shoe. Nick Saban was irate. He said that he was going to have he was going to
test everybody's fecal matter.
Everybody's tested. So I think that goes to tell you that Kirby Smart, although he's compared to Nick Saban a lot, they're not the same.
Well, yeah, and that's what I guess I kind of wanted to address where went off the rails a little bit. But the reason I'm bringing that up, Dave, is because I think this is a conglomerate of things. Of one, a player feeling like he can do that because the players heading into that game don't respect Kirby Smart because Kirby Smart has completely let the culture of discipline run amok. Now, I know what Mike Griffiths said to us earlier in the week. He said it's not like Urban Meyer in Florida. And he's right. Kirby Smart's not out here saying go murder people and harass your girlfriends and try to blind players like Urban Meyer was. Okay, Urban Meyer didn't tell them to do that. He just didn't care if they did. But Kirby Smart I think he's got a little bit of Philip Fulmer going on right now that you talk about from the early 2000s where Fulmer lost the team and he just couldn't. There was no way to get the respect back after that.
I really do too. I think it's more that than he bounces back and is suddenly a multi-championship coach again. And I thought Travis hit it pretty good in a couple of different posts. He said the mystique is gone. I think it is. And Travis goes on to say it's the beginning of the end for Georgia's program and Smart. It is time for today's. Oh, actually, let's go to Bank on It. Bank on It brought to you by Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better, CBTN.com. They've been my bank for over 20 years. I love them. Commercial Bank. They're fantastic. Caleb, you're going to have to convince me to bank on this, but you say that Tennessee can lose to Georgia and it's not an elimination game for the Vols. Tell me why I should bank on it.
Bank on it. Tennessee, Georgia is not an elimination game for the Vols because even if all chalk happens, there's a path for Tennessee to get to the college football playoff, but all chalk is not going to happen. So bank on it. If you want to bring up the ad, do you want me to flesh it out now or do you want to do the ad?
Go ahead and let's keep flushing it out. We'll just go ahead and say bank on. I want to hear it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, give me the reasons why, because you already pretty much said it, in my opinion. That is, this isn't going to go chalk. It never goes chalk. If it goes chalk, Tennessee could be left on the outside looking in. But the one thing I would bet on is it's not going to go chalk. There's going to be another upset, either Ole Miss, Texas, or somebody that's in line right now as a potential 2-loss team is going to lose a third game. Might be Tennessee, but I don't think it will, with Georgia and Vanderbilt looming in the SEC. But things are not going to go chalk. They never do, Caleb.
Yeah, but let's assume they do go chalk. Let's look at the playoff rankings. Oregon's 1, Ohio State's 2, Texas is 3, Penn State's 4, Indiana's 5, BYU's 6, Tennessee's 7, Notre Dame's 8, Miami's 9, Alabama's 10, Ole Miss is 11, Georgia's 12, Boise State is 13. Because Boise State would get an auto bid, right now Georgia's the one on the outside looking in. But, okay. So theoretically, if Georgia beats Tennessee, Tennessee's probably going to fall to Georgia's spot. Is that safe? That's probably safe to say, right, Dave? Number 12?
Yeah, I can roll with that.
All right. If all goes chalk in the end, and Tennessee finishes 10-2, Ole Miss finishes 10-2, Georgia finishes 10-2, Alabama finishes 10-2. Well, here's the problem. Okay, Ole Miss beat Georgia. Georgia beat Tennessee. Tennessee beat Alabama, but Alabama beat Georgia. So who do you leave out between Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia? It would be impossible really to determine. So what are they going to do? They're going to kick Indiana out. Indiana's losing to Ohio State, guys. If chalk happens, then Indiana loses to Ohio State in a blowout. Do you think they're gonna keep an 11-1 Indiana team that didn't beat a team with a winning record in over any of those 10-2 SEC teams? I'm guaranteeing you guys they won't. And that's why Tennessee's getting in. Because once Indiana's knocked out, that last SEC team, that extra SEC team, is going to bump in, and then all of a sudden you have the top 12. Now I'm going to throw a couple caveats. You're right. It's not going to go chalk. It never goes all chalk. If it doesn't go all chalk, though, it could work against Tennessee in this regard. You could see Texas A&M upset Texas. If BYU loses the Big 12 title game, that could be 2 Big 12 teams in. If Miami loses to Clemson in the ACC title, both of them could get in. I'm not seeing that happen, though. But I will say this. The biggest fear is Texas A&M and Texas. But I think if Texas A&M beats Texas, then they're just going to drop Texas out and put A&M in. Because Texas has played an abysmal schedule.
We had a question on the message board. Who do you think makes the SEC championship game? You're right. And you said this before the season. I hate it. That's been de-emphasized and doesn't have the same panache that it had earlier because of the college football playoff. But if I ask you to tell me pre-Tennessee, Georgia, who makes the SEC championship game, and you got to pick 2 SEC teams, who are you picking? So I'll go ahead and tell you. I think it's the UTs. I think it's Texas and Tennessee.
See, I don't, because I think Texas A&M's beating Texas. That game's at College Station, and Texas A&M is playing for a chance to top. Dave, I think Texas A&M's beating Texas. If Georgia beats Tennessee, you're looking at, I'm dead serious about this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're looking at 8 teams finishing 6-2 in the SEC, all of them. I don't know how they do the tiebreaker for 8 teams all finishing 6-2 in the SEC. I mean,
well, it goes to head-to-head, and then it goes.
How do you do head-to-head with 8 teams, though?
Right. Well, and then it goes. I know, and then it goes to common opponents. So common SEC opponents. It's just going to get messy. I mean, it ultimately comes down to a coin flip, literally.
And honestly, you're hoping you're on. If you're 6-2 and you're safe in the playoff, you hope you're on the wrong side of that coin flip, because you don't want to go to the SEC title. Why not sit at home? That's basically your bye. Like, oh, you'll get the bye if you win the SEC title, and everybody wants to play for the bye. No, they don't, because not going to the SEC title is your bye at that point.
I hate it, but it's true. The SEC championship game, not being in it, is somewhat of an advantage. Just like we said that Tennessee getting out of games because they were blowing people out was an advantage because you get a little bit more rest. Tennessee's bye weeks have come at great times when they really needed them. So not playing in the SEC championship game is an advantage. It hurts my heart to say that, but it's a fact. Chattanooga Mortgage, congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat Mortgage, chat with 2tmortgage.com, chat with 2tmortgage.com. They helped me improve my credit and get the home that I wanted to get in. That's Chattanooga Mortgage. Caleb, so you think that Texas A&M beats Texas, but just in terms, if I just ask you who you think the two best teams are in the SEC, I know you've got an upset pick with A&M beating Texas, but to me, I do believe, based off eye test, and things can shake out with a weird tiebreaker, and Georgia has the game at home, and I understand that, and A&M may upset, but just on eye test, I would argue that the two best teams in the SEC are Texas and Tennessee, especially with a healthy Nico Iamaleava.
I think I might agree with you, but I think don't sleep on Ole Miss getting in, because we both asked the question. The question with Ole Miss was whether or not they could play like a team with all this talent thrown together. Well, Dave, they're playing like a team right now. I'm sure they've come together with that Georgia win. So because of how that they've come together, you have to say Ole Miss now is in that category.
Okay, is this crazy to say that Ole Miss, with a mercenary-like team, has a better team culture than Georgia, which has done it the old-fashioned way and raised guys through their program in high school football recruiting? Is that crazy to say?
No, it's not crazy to say at all. I actually agree with you. I think possibly it's, look, say what you want about Lane Kiffin, but he's the only coach that could actually like lead a team of mercenaries and relate to the culture. Is that fair to say? He's the only coach that could pull that off.
Yeah, and I think it's just make sure everybody gets paid. To be honest with you, which we've seen detail-oriented Billy Napier not be able to do, and they may not be able to fire him because of that. But we'll talk to Pat Dooley with WRUF a little bit later in the program. Yes.
So yeah, I wanted to get to it. Do you think that Tennessee? Do you think if Indiana loses that they would be, if they lose to Ohio State, do you think they'll be ahead of any of those SEC teams, assuming Ohio State beats the brakes off them?
No, I think they'll drop precipitously because, again, it's a TV show. And I think that you would rather have the Golden Domes of Notre Dame, the Tennessees of the world, the programs that have history. It's not fair to Kurt Signetti. It's not fair to the Hoosiers. But
it's absolutely fair. You're the one who hated on Indiana all year. If they lose to Ohio State, Dave, I think it's totally fair to keep them out, particularly if they get blown out. Who have they played?
Well, no, I agree. But on face value, an 11-1 Big Ten or SEC team, just like I say, 10-2 SEC team should make it. But they haven't played anybody. So that's where they are. By the way, he's a cocky fella. I watched an interview with him yesterday.
Oh, he's very cocky.
Yeah, he's like, Google me. So Caleb again thinks that the culture at the University of or Ole Miss is better than Georgia.
I'm gonna go a step further. Here's my really hot take. I don't even think this is an elimination game for Georgia. I think they have more of an uphill climb if they lose. But Dave, if Georgia loses and then they finish 9-3, given their schedule, I would take a 9-3 Georgia and put them in over a 10-2 Texas, an 11-1 Indiana, an 11-1 SMU, maybe even a 10-2 Texas A&M. I'm sorry, I would put Georgia in over all of those teams. Look at their schedule.
Caleb's Hot Takes brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, coming up on the program, maybe the craziest thing that we've said ever on this show, and that's saying something and it's right. And it's going to sound insane, like I've been at the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. HOOK for 10% off. Believe it or not, Tennessee could be better off if Gaston Moore was the quarterback instead of Nico Iamaleava. Why? What the H? We discussed that coming up with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2024 Ford Maverick XLT all-wheel drive, $31,990. 23 Ford Expedition 4x4 Limited, $66,590. 2023 Ford F-150 XLT Super Crew 4x4, $47,995. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, so some people voted in our poll question earlier. We've changed it up. Thanks for the likes, guys. I see you hearting us up there. We appreciate that. Support our sponsors. Caleb, how's the new streaming software treating you? Because it seems like Medicare Misty is popping up in my dreams.
Yeah, the new streaming software is.
All right,
you guys did a great job on this restream.
Yeah, I mean,
I know, we really don't have to be nice to them because we pay for their service. So, it's
no, we don't have to be nice to them at all. As a matter of fact, we can just call them out, restream. What are you doing? All right. So our earlier poll question, who wins? Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. 79% Mike Tyson, Jake Paul 20%. I'm afraid this is just going to be a show because Mike Tyson slapped him, which you never do. And it seems like it's just kind of orchestrated. But anyway, the new poll question, do you consider this an elimination game for the Vols? 72% yes, 28% no. Caleb, my argument would be you should definitely consider it an elimination game. I know what you laid out is very pertinent, but Tennessee and Tennessee fans should consider an elimination game because you do not want to be sitting on Selection Sunday watching television hoping that you get in, because I don't trust this committee as far as I can throw them. And with my bad shoulder, I shouldn't be throwing anybody.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to leave it up to a committee. I've told you guys for a while that if I'm Tennessee, I don't want to go to the SEC title game. Dave, I've given you my thoughts on that. I have no desire to go. However, at the same time, if they beat Georgia, they're probably going, assuming they beat Vanderbilt. And it's like you can't play to not go to the SEC title game because it could actually cost you a spot in the college football playoff, period. You can't manipulate the rankings like that. You can't take any chances. So what I say is go to the title game, win this game, go to Atlanta, and then chuck the title game. Throw it.
Oh, no.
And we will talk about that.
Okay.
This is the biggest reason I hope Tennessee wins this weekend and Tennessee goes to the title game. I want that to be our debate of the week when it comes, because I am very much team chuck the SEC title.
Well, I'll give you. I think that Tennessee actually did that in basketball, and I thought you were crazy when you said it, and it worked out for them. All right, so
Nico Iamaleava is injured.
I called Caleb about this one yesterday, and I could tell that at first he was like, "Man, I think Dave's been drinking again," and he thought it was insano. But why Tennessee could be better off with Gaston Moore than Nico Iamaleava come Saturday against the Bulldogs. And I'm not even joking. Here we go. What the H? Brought to you by Medicare Misty.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Okay, work with me here, Caleb. Work with me. The better player between Nico Iamaleava and Gaston Moore is who?
Very obviously Nico Iamaleava.
Okay. The better chance to beat Georgia is presented in which player? It is?
Very obviously Nico Iamaleava.
Okay. However, Tennessee's defense, would you agree or disagree, will keep the Vols in the game no matter who is at quarterback. This will not be the 27-13 thumping like Tennessee suffered in 2022 that felt more like a 45-6 thumping. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I totally agree, because as you consistently and adequately and accurately point out, defense travels.
Okay. Let's say Gaston Moore goes out there. And again, we've reported that we believe firmly that Nico is going to play. But for funsies, let's say Gaston Moore goes out there and that he is your starter and that Tennessee is in the game and they cover the spread. The spread really shouldn't matter. But let's say it's a one-score game. Let's say Tennessee's inefficient on offense because Gaston Moore doesn't have the ability to stretch the field, can't make all the throws, and Tennessee manages to score 17 points. And then let's say Georgia, because they have an extra opportunity or so, because Tennessee's not able to control the ball and or put the Bulldogs in a corner score-wise, let's say Georgia scores 24 points. Now, if you're the committee, you have looked at Tennessee and you've said, no Hendon Hooker, they're not getting in. You said Florida State, they're not getting in last year because of the young man whose name that suddenly escapes me that's hurt.
Jordan Travis.
Okay, so let's say that just for instance, Gaston Moore goes out there and they lose a one-score game to Georgia. Nico Iamaleava comes out the following week against UTEP, plays really well, everything's fine. They blow out Vanderbilt. Does Tennessee get the benefit of the doubt in a road game at Georgia that's close with their backup quarterback who is still technically a walk-on? Caleb, I would actually say that might be Tennessee's surest way to get into the college football playoff. I know beating Georgia is in reality it, but man, I think that if that played out exactly the way I laid it out, I think Tennessee is absolutely in as long as they beat Vanderbilt by, 20 or so points. I know this is a better Vanderbilt team. I'm not sliding Vanderbilt, but I think they're a lock to get in if that scenario plays out.
All right, let's unpack this for a minute, because this goes to what I previously talked about, how I said it's going to be hard to decipher the SEC teams because, okay, let's pull the hypothetical here. The debate over whether or not there's going to be an SEC team left out comes down to the assumption that Georgia beats Tennessee and Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Alabama all finish 10-2. The reason that's going to be so hard to figure out who to leave out is because you're going to have to leave out somebody who beat somebody else. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
so if you leave out Ole Miss, you'd be like, well, they beat Georgia. If you leave out Georgia, you say, well, they beat Tennessee. If you leave out Tennessee, you say, well, they beat Alabama. If you leave out Alabama, you say, well, they beat Georgia. So how could you put one of those teams over any of them? If they do come to a situation where one of those teams is left out, which I don't think they're going to come to, by the way, but let's just say they do. Tennessee will get in over Georgia at that point. Because of those common opponents' records, they're all 10-10. Whose win is the least impressive, Dave? It's Georgia's over Tennessee at that point. If you say Tennessee beat Alabama with Jalen Milroe, a Heisman contender, playing at quarterback. Alabama beat Georgia when Georgia was at full strength. Ole Miss beat Georgia when Georgia was at full strength. Georgia's only win. They all beat somebody else in here, but Georgia's the only one to lose to two of these teams, and their only win in this cluster is against a team that was playing a walk-on quarterback, and they beat him by home, and if it's within a touchdown, I mean, Dave, I'll just say this. I throw out what I said last. I actually think if Tennessee beats Georgia, I've said it's not an elimination for Georgia. But if Tennessee keeps it close with Georgia, with Gaston Moore at quarterback, not only do I put Tennessee in the college football playoff, I throw Georgia out. I don't even consider them for the college football playoff at that point.
Nice. Okay. And there's precedent for doing this, aside from the ones that I've mentioned, because you look at the University of Alabama, and you can get a mulligan. You absolutely can. 30 seconds for Medicare. Misty, she's licensed in over 40 states. It's open enrollment time. Medicare, Misty, no charge for her services. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
He does. Now, Alabama needs to go undefeated the rest of the regular season. But Alabama has how many losses, Caleb?
2. They have 2.
Okay. And did they occur mid-October or before?
They occurred all mid-October and before.
Okay. Where do they rank right now in the college football playoff?
Right now in the college football playoff, they are number 10.
Okay. So if they win out, they're in it, right?
They're absolutely in it, yeah.
Okay. They gave Alabama a mulligan because it was a first-year coach in Kalen DeBoer. So they're taking into account, I believe, who's playing the best football. So it's not just a resume thing because Alabama looks like they're coming together. Jalen Milroe looks like an exciting player. So Nico looks like an exciting player. So there is reason to believe that if Gaston Moore went down there and started, and again, Tennessee finished the season against UTEP and Vanderbilt. Again, I believe Nico's going to play. But there's reason to believe that Tennessee could get a mulligan. And I don't think it's insane to say that at all, Caleb.
No, I don't think it's insane to say that at all either. I think Tennessee could absolutely get a mulligan, and they're already giving them a mulligan for the Arkansas game earlier in the year. Look, let's call it what it is. You point out it's a TV show. Well, what is a factor in the TV show? They want not just stars. They want the teams that are playing best at that time. Do they not?
Yes.
I mean, you want the teams that are better in November than they were in September. And you're going to lean towards, first of all, the AP poll's always done this. And people get mad at them. I actually think they get this right, Dave. I do think you should lean more favorably to what happens later in the season. Because, quite honestly, teams are different later in the season. And I think if you're putting together a playoff, you don't want to say, well, if two teams have an equal resume, but one looks way better in November and the other looks way better in September, would you not take the one who looks better in November?
Absolutely.
Like, you want the teams playing better. You don't want TCU and Georgia 2 years ago. And by the way, I would really like to point this out for everybody who thought that expanding the playoff would get rid of the controversy. It didn't, because now you have these expanded conferences, and we're going to do my picks later in the show. And the expanded conferences, you realize how much of a reduction in top 25 games there has been this year, Dave? It's been, there's been so many fewer. This is the second week in a row I'm going to be picking SEC and top 25 games, and there are no top 25 games out of the SEC. So miss me with the whole SEC's down stuff. Okay, the too many Big Ten teams are beating up on way too many bottom feeders in the Big Ten. So I just had to give that rant out. But yeah, they're going to favor, you're right, they're going to favor who's playing hot at the right time. Tennessee's loss to Arkansas was in the first weekend of October. They're going to give them a mulligan for the loss to Georgia if they play with Gaston Moore. If Gaston starts, they're going to play close. Dave, this goes to my theory. I keep saying it. This is how you throw the SEC championship game, okay? You sit there and you say that Nico Iamaleava is hurt and banged up. And so you got to start Gaston Moore.
Okay, that's
you have precedent. You have precedent for this.
Today's tough question brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spa. Stop by on their Athens exit, get a free prize just for saying hello from Off the Hook Sports and $500 off the spa, and they do everything to deliver it to you. They're awesome. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Today's tough question.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
2 losses, players getting called idiots, coaches retracting those statements, Carson Beck falling apart. Do you think Georgia is desperate? And then we'll get into whether or not that helps or hurts the Bulldogs. Do you think Georgia is desperate? Are they on the verge of collapse?
Yes. Yes. They are desperate. They're desperate for a few reasons. They don't have the chemistry and the type of culture that Nick Saban had as a program. I don't want to say they have the culture Florida had as a program, but I will say this, Dave. You covered the SEC title game where Alabama just beat the heck out of Florida, right? When Florida was number 1. And
yes, where Urban Meyer had a panic attack after the game.
Was that not the most changing of the guard?
Yeah.
It
was, you're right. It was that one of those that, and you really realized it. You realized it during and after the game, how much bigger and more physical that Alabama was. But you also realized it in the 48 hours after, because you had Urban Meyer having health issues, which was quite an interesting turn of events, considering Nick Saban had just beaten the pants off of him. I'm going to say this. I think Kirby Smart is too good of a coach for Georgia to be desperate. And he has gotten teams to a good level and not won a championship before. So I think they'll keep fighting. But our poll question is, do you think Georgia is desperate? It's today's tough question, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. The Athens exit. Just stop by and say hello. Free prize from Off the Hook Sports. Yes, on the verge of collapse, 94%. No, Smart is too good of a coach. A very small amount of the voting going my direction. Now, I ask you this. If Georgia is desperate, does that help or hurt the Vols, Caleb?
Well, I wanted to get to what I was going to say real quick first on
Okay,
why it was changing of the guard. The reason it was changing of the guard is because Florida was the biggest bully on the playground, and they got their laid out. And so you guys know this from schoolyards. When the bully gets laid out by somebody, he's never a threat again, right? He becomes a laughingstock at that point, and then he wilts and melts and collapses, and that's what happened to Florida. Georgia's been the bully on the playground, and unlike Alabama, they've acted like it. They have basically said, we don't care about discipline. We are Georgia. We own everybody. If Tennessee beats Georgia this weekend, the reason I say Georgia could be desperate is that would be a changing of the guard moment because the biggest bully on the playground has 3 losses at that moment. And then they collapse and they can implode. But I will say to you, Dave, you're right. I think it could help Georgia and hurt Tennessee because I think they know this and I think they are desperate. And I mean, they're called the Bulldogs. Have you ever been around a dog desperate thinking it's fighting for its life?
No, but
those dogs are dangerous.
No, but my buddy had a bulldog, and they have the worst gastrointestinal issues.
Oh, they do. I didn't say a bulldog. No, have you ever been around?
I was like, dude, you got to get rid of this thing. Thankfully, this sounds awful, but thankfully it was so inbred it didn't live long.
Have you? Yeah, it's kind of sad what happens with bulldogs. But have you ever, honestly, on this, have you ever been on it with a regular dog? I'll just give you a quick story. My dog was on leash with me one time. He's okay. He's fine. But somebody forgot to shut the gate for with their pit bull in the backyard. And the pit bull wasn't friendly with dogs. And the pit bull ran at my dog and attacked my dog. We actually got them separated. My dog was still trying to attack that pit bull that probably could have killed it if we got it separated. Because why? He felt desperate. Dogs are super dangerous when they feel desperate, guys. They will absolutely rip you to shreds, even if it will kill them in the process.
I really believe that Georgia's sense of invulnerability, is that a word, was taken away last week by Ole Miss.
And you don't want that if you're Tennessee.
Well, and I think it was very interesting that Lane Kiffin, I think you kind of do. I think you look at, listen, everybody I've talked to, they want to say both on and off the record, Georgia's Georgia. They're still good, different jerseys, but they're not. I mean, they're just not. That's the right thing to say, and that's the right culture to have, but they're just not. And I think that Ole Miss knocked off that vulnerability because Georgia was semi-desperate in that game because they already had a loss. So I think Tennessee goes into this game not thinking that these are the big bad Bulldogs. They're thinking this is another team. And you talk about desperate and motivation, and all these are secondary to winning championships. But, we talked to Cooper Mays about it on the Vol Report, and it would mean something, I think, for any player to leave a university and not go winless against a key rival. I mean, you have to think about that in your legacy. What do we always say about Peyton Manning? He never beat Florida. Never beat Florida.
I mean, Andy Kelly, in every interview he's ever done, he's like, what's your only regret in life? He's like, that I never beat Alabama. He's like, if I could just go back and beat Alabama one time.
Only regret in life? Well, he's made a lot of good decisions.
Biggest. I think it's his regret in his football career.
Right. I'm just thinking, if my only regret in life is that I've lost 4 games to a team, then I've made a lot of prudent decisions. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree. Can we at least point out, though, here's the thing, and how do you do when you are desperate? Look, Tennessee, because people are saying that, you talk about the sense of invulnerability. I thought the sense of invulnerability being knocked out would help Tennessee after they lost to Arkansas, but then they go around and almost lose to Florida the next week. So you can really respond in different ways. I will be honest about that. I think more with Georgia. Are they desperate? Yes. I'm kind of on your side, though, in terms of the talent thing. The real issue with Georgia is that they're seriously banged up, and you're not in an era of college football anymore where when you're banged up or hurt, you can just replace them with another 5-star that would start on any other team in college football. That's what Georgia and Alabama did for the last 15 years.
I'll tell you what I want to do. Today's tough question brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. I want to get Ollie Lane's take. Give me a minute, and then we'll get the former Vols take on Georgia being more vulnerable this year than back in 2022, a game in which he played. For Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing? Therapeutic? Absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. All right, let's bring this guy in here right now. Ollie Lane. Ollie, I'm running all over the place as far as clock management, so my apologies.
No, you're good.
It's
less miles level clock management.
Yeah, it's just less miles. I'm like the Jeremy Pruitt of hosts. Anyway, Ollie just drops his head. Ollie, who has the psychological advantage in this game, which is largely overdone, but is it Georgia is either desperate or they're vulnerable? How do you look at it from a psychological perspective?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at it, this Georgia team, they take another loss, they're out of the playoff race for good. And, obviously that's going to add that sense of desperation to them. And I think this is after, losing to Ole Miss, they're a little bit, I'm sure they're mad, fired up, ready to go. But one thing that I think is key to look at is, the Alabama game, they fought the second half, didn't finish it, couldn't win. Ole Miss game, they fought in the second half, couldn't finish it, didn't win. If they get in a situation where they have to fight in the second half again from behind, I feel like this might be a team that rolls over at this point, third time getting in that situation, and they might just roll over at that point because they haven't been able to do it before. They're banged up. They've got a lot of different guys that aren't fully 100% ready to go. And like you guys were talking about before, that talent gap that them and the Nick Sabans of the world had a hold on for the past few years of college football, it's gone now with the introduction of NIL and the recruitment efforts of everybody else around the country. I mean, talent is getting more and more spread out across the country. You could see it a lot this season. So, I mean, Georgia, to think next man up mentality, that's not been as strong suit for them as it has been in the past. And this is a team to me that's now in desperation mode, that has the possibility of quitting if they hit too much adversity again.
It's an interesting thing you said. And I want to ask you too about Kirby Smart calling one of his players an idiot publicly, how that might go over in a locker room. Again, poor clock management on my part. Peak IV hydration, South Knoxville and Sevierville, live life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV hydration. They bring you the Warren Report on Monday with Jacob Warren, and in part Ollie Lane, which I haven't come up with a clever name yet, but I'll work on that. Peak IV hydration, go to peakivhydration.com. We'll drop that in the chat. You can order the patches online. So Ollie, give me 2 minutes. So we're going to do some business, and I want to get back to what you said about a couple of different things, and that is they could roll over if they get challenged, and the talent gap, how close that is. So give me 2 minutes. Off the Hook Sports with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Caleb, I love Sports Treasures in North Knoxville over 35 years and over 5 million sports treasures.
Sorry, guys.
What are they doing up there? Ollie, they redid our streaming software. So Caleb's kind of pulled a Max Gilbert a couple of weeks ago. That's awful. That's awful.
No. This would be if I were a kicker, if they totally narrowed the goalpost on me. And, like, Dave, just please don't defecate in my shoes.
Oh yeah, did you hear about that, Ollie? That in Alabama, after the famous Kick Six game, that an Alabama player defecated in one of the in the kicker's shoe. Did you hear about that?
I saw that.
And he put
my God!
The guy puts his sock on and sticks it in his shoe. And AJ McCarron said it was filled up too. And I'm like,
Ollie, can I ask you a personal question? Because you play one of the most gladiator positions in the most gladiator sport in football. This is why I hate kicking in football. I love the kick six game. It's the greatest moment in college football history to me for Alabama Auburn. But how frustrating is it when you play like a gladiator for like 60 minutes and you're putting your body on the line like that and you do everything to win, but the game is lost because this kid that's not that doesn't get hit at all comes out 5 times a game and can't hit basic field goals. Don't you kind of have a right to hate him at that point?
I don't know. It's every player's biggest frustration for sure, because I mean, you understand that they're there for a reason and that they are good at kicking if they're there and they're the ones kicking for you. And there's so many factors that go into kicking. Like as an outside in, I'm thinking, oh, you just put your foot on the ball, kick it through the upright. That's easy. But I mean, there's so many factors that go into it that just as a blind person that doesn't understand the kicking game that goes into creating good kicks. So, I mean, yes, you could be frustrated at them and angry with them, but at the same time, it's like you're still your teammate. You got to lift them up, and they're doing their job too, and they don't know what it takes to do your job. You don't know what it takes to do their job. So it's like,
yeah, but they're on scholarship to hit field goals within 30 yards at least, though.
No,
so
for
Kate
sure.
Foster was missed like 3 field goals within 30 yards. I feel like you have a right to hate him for that point if you're on Alabama.
No doubt. I mean, there's certain situations where the frustration can actually turn into anger real quick. But
right. But by the same token, Caleb is advocating you go boom boom in his shoe.
I don't know if I go that far.
I'm sorry. The sport I hate the fact that the sport, like, you have these guys that play like warriors for 60 minutes and it comes down to this guy that never gets touched the whole game, and it comes down to his leg.
That's the greatest part about football. I mean, you got athletes that are 5 foot, 100 pounds, and then you got an athlete that's 6'6", 330 pounds. It's, you don't see that in a lot of different sports. So
that's true. If I ask you the craziest thing you ever saw in a locker room, would it have to do with Joe Milton and Jeremy Banks?
No, surprisingly not. That was not the craziest moment I've ever seen in a locker room, and I don't know if I can go into explanation, but the locker room stuff, what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's turn to this Georgia game. You mentioned that you feel like that Georgia could roll over in a tight game because they've got so much riding on it. And I want to get into that psychological aspect. But first, I want to ask you this. Josh Heupel is very orchestrated and well thought out when he makes comments to the media. And I don't know if you know this, Ollie, but he's actually gone up to reporters before and said, good luck getting something out of that press conference. He's actually proud of himself not saying anything and filling 10 minutes of airtime with nothing, which he does every Monday in a press conference. And kudos to him if that's the way he wants to play it. He certainly would never call a player an idiot publicly. And I listen, what the kid did celebrating the Pope kid for Georgia, the defensive back celebrating with Ole Miss, that is an idiotic move.
Yes.
But I've always believed, all the coaches I've been around, I can say, don't play like an idiot. Say, Ollie, you're an idiot.
Yeah, it carries different.
It carries way different. So how do you think that played in the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, if I was that player, I mean, it's one thing when you're one-on-one with your coach to get reprimanded and told you're an idiot or stupid or whatever. But I mean, to go out onto national media and say it, I mean, it hurts just what the character and personality of that kid is. I mean, I understand, as he knows, he's made a stupid mistake of celebrating with his family and stuff after that game that he shouldn't have. But at the end of the day, I'm sure he's a young kid, doesn't know a whole lot better. And I mean, that's just a situation where you work on it in-house. And if you want to talk about it in the media, you say that's something that we're handling. Obviously disappointed in his actions, but that's something that he's working to correct. But I don't think you just straight up call the guy an idiot. I mean, that's just it. One, that's straight to that kid, but then also to that kid's parents. I mean, do you think that they raised them for his coach to call him an idiot? And I mean, now when you're a parent, you send your kid to college. I mean, that's the guy that's looking out for your kid for the next 4 to 5 years. And if they're calling you an idiot on national TV, as a parent, I'd be concerned if my kid was getting treated fairly.
I completely agree, Caleb. I thought, and you got to remember too, Caleb, I know you would jump in here. That was Kirby Smart's response 48 hours after. It wasn't after the game like somebody showed it to him and it was like a knee-jerk response. Yeah. I mean, he had time to think about it and then had to bring it back. Caleb, go right ahead, sir.
So, Ollie, I want to talk a little bit about the chemistry impact in this game comparing the two teams. Look, we talked a couple of weeks ago, and you basically broke down. You pretty much think South Carolina cheated against you guys. I mean, and I'm not denying that was the case. But we also know the inner workings of the locker room of what happened. And I want to compare it to just using that as a jumping off point. We saw what happened to the defense in that game. How much can the chemistry of something really, really wreck your psyche and willingness to play that upcoming Saturday?
Yeah, and I mean, chemistry gets talked about in every aspect of life, from what a work company is trying to do to what sports teams are trying to do. Chemistry carries everything, and it all starts with your team culture. And I mean, if you don't have a culture and a chemistry where you feel like you can truly work with every single person on your team, then you got guys that don't want to play with certain guys. They don't want to be with certain guys. There's no communication going on. They're like, well, I'm not going to tell this guy what's going on because I want him to mess up because I don't want him in here. And I mean, you get all these split out issues and stuff, people against people. And then it creates a toxic environment to where, one, you've got your top leaders who can't hold anything together and they're trying desperately to scrounge here and there to get guys bought in. And then you've got some of your leaders that are helping buy out people, get people to not want to be involved in everything. I saw a lot of poor chemistry stuff happen in my early years at UT under Pruitt. And I mean, obviously a lot of that stuff's come to light in the past that there was some chemistry issues. At the end of the day, if you don't have good team chemistry and a good bond with your teammates out there, especially with the 11 that are out there on the field with you, you're not going to be able to get anything done because if I don't rely on my guys, I can't trust them. And then I'm going to have to think that I have to go above and beyond of what my job and position is to do something because I don't think you can do it and I have to do my job and your job, well, then you're putting yourself in a bad situation, and then you're not letting him, your buddy, do his work. So, I mean, it splits everything. The whole purpose of football is you got 11 guys out there, but the goal is to have 11 moving as one whole unit. So, I mean, if you don't have that chemistry and you've got 10 guys, but you got one other guy not bought in, well, that one other guy not bought in is going to throw it off for the other 10. So, I mean, you got to have complete chemistry buy-in from everybody. And as it starts to splinter, that's when you start to see a lot more issues of people wanting to do way more than they need to cover up someone they don't believe they can trust out there, or you start seeing lack of communication and just thoughtfulness in playing.
All right, Caleb has a question, and Caleb, don't be an idiot. And you wouldn't be an idiot if you used the UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses. Wide range of products owned by a former Vol family. Click right down below, UPS store Hardin Valley. Caleb?
So, analyzing what you're seeing with these two teams on Saturday, how much of a chemistry advantage does Tennessee have now, given the fact that the other coach called one of his players an idiot? And how much do you think that will affect the way they play?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think obviously chemistry-wise advantage goes to Tennessee. I mean, obviously they've been struggling, but at the end of the day, this team is such a close-knit team and they work so well together. You know, my past 3 years of being over there, I still know it's the same way because that's the mentality that they've instilled is that we're a team. We move as one. We're only as strong as our weakest link. And, you know, I'm sure Georgia, same coach talk, they have those same speeches and stuff, but how much of it is actually in play when you've got, like you said, a coach openly willing to call a player an idiot on national TV? It just doesn't mesh well to me, and that starts to cause issues. And, you know, you see them banged up. You see them having a lot of struggles that they don't have. You wonder if they're starting to now call out people for the losses that they've had that they didn't need, especially after losing to Ole Miss, a team that they definitely should not have lost to. I wonder if maybe some calling out and some stuff happened. I mean, obviously you see Carson Beck struggling. I wonder if he's starting to voice it, hey, I need help. It's not all on me. Or if they're going back and saying it's all on you, you got to fix it. I think chemistry-wise goes to Tennessee. And like I said before, you know, with Georgia having struggles and now in desperation mode, they're going to start pressing, going to start trying to make things happen that aren't there. You're going to see mistakes, and you're going to see them hopefully fall apart. And then if Tennessee can keep the foot on the gas and press the accelerator, I mean, you could see this team truly roll over in the second half.
Wow, man. Ollie's as good as they come. Hey, that's a great breakdown. Ollie, I don't think I'm an idiot. I'm sure there have been I mean, some people think I am. But I'm sure there have been times where a Tennessee player has gotten into trouble under Josh Heupel and it didn't get out to the media. And I'm not saying that there are 85 scholarship saints on campus. I wouldn't expect that. That's just not the way men are in general and people are. But I wonder, with all the off-season speeding issues that Georgia has, do you think there's a correlation between discipline off the field and discipline on the field?
Yeah, you know, there is definitely some correlation because, I mean, as more and more issues arise off the field situations, you can just tell that, well, they're doing these things because, one, they either don't have that much of a concern or care about their position on the team. They are only concerned about themselves and not anybody else because, I mean, guys that go out and cause issues off the field obviously aren't thinking about, one, the teammates that it's going to affect, the fan base, the program, the college. They don't think about any of that. They're selfish people. And so, I mean, selfish people do not feed into a good team culture or team chemistry. They take away from it, and they take away from the team unity and make it more individuality. And I mean, that's just, it comes from a point of, as a coach, you've got to understand that you've got to make it apparent that whatever as a player you do in and off the field affects everybody else that's in this building. No matter if you think it only affects you, what your choices are, it affects everybody else. And at the end of the day, once you get a team to realize that, then you start seeing guys really holding each other accountable, pulling them along, and making sure that they keep their noses clean.
Oh, that's very intriguing. I'm going to turn it over to Caleb again, but I know this goes slightly before your time. But when the wheels started to come off, and I was covering Tennessee on a day-to-day, 2 hours of practice was open basis, it was obvious when Philip Fulmer's team started having trouble off the field, started having trouble on the field. So I think you're very astute in pointing that out. Caleb?
Okay, so Ollie, let's talk a little ball on the field real quick. Georgia is seriously banged up on the offensive line. Tate Ratledge is, I think, finally healthy, but just as he gets healthy, Micah Morris is not healthy. And Tennessee's interior defensive line is obviously a huge advantage. On the other side, they got Nazir Stackhouse as like that elite nose tackle in the middle going up against an elite interior Tennessee offensive line that I think could wear them down. Where does Tennessee have a bigger advantage? Their offensive line versus Georgia's defensive line, or their defensive line versus Georgia's offensive line?
That's a tough one because, honestly, and it's not just, go Tennessee, but I think they have the advantage on both sides realistically. I mean, I played against that defensive line last year, and it wasn't nothing special that we couldn't handle. We were able to block it up well and make things happen. And I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do the same thing this year. And then, you look at their offensive line. It's funny. I watched a lot of their offensive line play from last year to try to make myself better. They do a lot of good things over there as far as skill and technique wise. That's interesting to kind of try to copy and replicate. But, seeing them struggle this year, they've given up a lot of pressures and given up a lot of different things that they haven't in the past. And, that's what our defensive line feeds off of. And I think we'll continue to feed off of it. Carson Beck has continued to throw interception after interception due to pressures. And, we're a super highly rated pressure team. We're going to get back there and cause havoc back there. And I think at the end of the day, if you want to put it advantage, I think our defense is going to carry a bigger advantage in just being able to create havoc and cause issues for this Georgia offense. And I think it's going to eventually, like I've talked about the whole time, is cause them to press, make mistakes, and eventually force themselves out of the football game.
I'm going to ask a question right now on our YouTube poll question that people can take a part of because you laid it out there. How much of an advantage will chemistry play into the game? So people can vote on that. Caleb, you go right ahead, sir. What do you got?
Okay, so sticking with this a little bit, Dave and I have talked about the fact that we think even if Gaston Moore played and if he, struggled throwing the ball because he underthrew a lot of passes last week, but that it's not really that important who Tennessee's quarterback is because they could just run the ball and just will their way to victory, dominating the line of scrimmage in this game. Do you think Tennessee has that type of advantage in this game against Georgia, which is crazy to say?
Yeah.
But
I don't know if I'd go that far as to say it's this type, because at the end of the day, it's still Georgia. It's still the University of Georgia. It's still Kirby Smart. They're going to put out a good team and they're going to play hard. I give all the benefit of the doubt and credit to Gaston. He knows the offense well, super experienced, and knows how to run it. But at the end of the day, we can't solely just rely on a running game to carry us to victory. We've done that in the past down there, not specifically just with Heupel, but we've tried to just hammer run game on a Kirby Smart defense, and it doesn't always, pan out in our favor. So, you got to be able to have a good enough split between the two to cause some confusion behind there. Because, this defense is very well disciplined and coached. And, they're going to be able to stay in their spots for the most part. And so it's just finding schemes that's going to catch them off guard so you can find the holes.
Come on, Ollie. Yes, wait. I have to. Yeah, I get what I see what you said. You said, "quote We played a game where we tried to ground and pound." You didn't call him out. That was with Jeremy Pruitt. We wanted to ground and pound his way to victory when y'all were nowhere near as deep as Georgia at that time, and it made no sense for Jeremy Pruitt to try that. You know it.
I was just sitting here thinking. How Ollie's my all-time, perhaps one of my all-time favorite guests. That goes back 25 years. And basically what Caleb did is Peyton Manning saying,
like, that is totally
come on. Ollie, would you like to respond to that before we have some fun with the stat of the day with you?
Yeah, you got me on that one. I mean, I just.
Here's another one for you. Derek says Kirby's sex life must have hit a wall this year because he can't handle anything. Do you want to comment on? I don't want to comment on Kirby Smart's sex life. Do you?
No, I would rather not. I don't want to know anything about that.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
I think Shannon still lives in Georgia, so Shannon should give him a call if that's an issue.
Oh
gosh. By the way, Caleb calls me and wants to talk about what Peyton Manning's doing, posting pictures of his wife on Instagram. Well, she's hot. I mean, I post pictures of her too. I post pictures of my wife at times on Facebook. All right, so let's do stat of the day. Stat of the day. We want to do this with Ollie for a particular reason, and it is brought to you by our good friends at Sports Treasures. I mentioned carrying over 5 million Sports Treasures and so much more. Follow them on Facebook at Sports Treasures TN for updates, and our friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. Looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. What's the stat of the day? And then I got one as well. And then Ollie, we're going to lay it on you to determine which one is better. What do you think of that?
All right, yeah, that'll work.
Stat of the day, Caleb. Well, mine is hot. I mean,
that's hot.
Number of women Kirby. Never mind. Okay, so stat of the day is Tennessee's defense is not just elite, like in scoring defense, and we've talked about that, not giving up 20 points a game. This is what's crucial about their defense this year, guys. They have the best situational defense in college football. They are number one in red zone defense, number one in the SEC. This is. They have the best red zone scoring defense, the best red zone touchdown defense percentage, the best third down defense, and the second best fourth down defense to South Carolina. But it's very, very close. It's basically a coin flip at that point. Mm-hmm. They're top 6 nationally in all 3 categories.
Okay, are you ready for my stat of the day?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, hit me with it.
Yeah, mine's a lot better. Ollie, who do you think wins Mike Tyson, Jake Paul?
I'm taking Mike Tyson.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the stat of the day. There's several stats here. Longest boxing match ever. Andy Bowen and Jack Burke. 110 rounds over 7 hours and 19 minutes. And here's the way a round ended. It wasn't timed. It was until somebody got knocked down. Now, that happened back in 1893 in New Orleans, Louisiana. So you can go ahead and give me my bouquet of flowers. That's a pretty good stat.
That's a pretty good stat.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty good stat. I mean, I don't know if we were going strictly just Tennessee stat or not, but no, I don't know if I could stay in a ring that long, even if I was a trained boxer. God.
No, that's crazy. And okay, so you don't have to mention any names, but have you seen a good fight? I know Josh Heupel hates fighting. I've seen some good fights. Like, that was an okay thing back in the day. Mm-hmm. I could name a couple ones. Albert Hainsworth, if you're familiar with him, like to go get a big pole out of the weight room and attack people with it. Seriously. And but have you seen any good fights on the practice field that you're like, man, that was hilarious?
Yeah, I've seen a couple. Probably one of my funniest moments was my first fight ever in history, and it was at the University of Tennessee. It was my first summer at UT, and we're doing one-on-ones on the field, and I'm going against Matt Butler. And everybody knows Matt Butler, super aggressive, doesn't know when the whistle's blown, doesn't stop, continues to go. And so, I mean, we're not even in pads. We're just in shorts and shirts, and we're out here doing one-on-one pass rush. And, I set it down. I'm ending it, ready to stop it, and he just keeps pressing. Well, I take my hands, and I lock him in his shirt, and I lift him up. And I'm like, all right, dude, it's over. Just calm down. Well, I mean, it was like some Matrix thing. I saw the fist come, and, I mean, my face dodged back. I see it go across my face, and I was like, whoa. And I threw like 1, 2. And then everybody started jumping in. I was like, all right, I'm getting out of here. I was like, I had mine.
All right. So new poll question that's out there right now. Caleb, give that a read and we'll get Ollie's take on that.
Okay. So the poll question that is out there right now, pulling it up real quick, is this. Sorry, I'd like to apologize. I had a technical issue trying to set up the ad break again with Restream because you guys know we're having a great time. So could Dave and Caleb take Ollie in a fight? Yeah. No, he'd kill them. Yes, 2-on-1. No, Ollie, I'm not fighting you. Sorry.
2-on-1. 2-on-1, Ollie. Would we stand a chance?
Do you guys have like a tap out system, or is it like I got to fight both of you at the same time?
Both at the same time. We both come at you.
I mean, I feel like I could maybe hold one of you guys back with my arm and then like work on the other one. Yeah, I just got 2 feet too. So, I mean,
Ollie, let me tell you how I'd win this fight. I get to bring my dog with me.
No, you can bring the dog, and I can bring my little schnauzer, and we get the hell beat out of us. The funniest part is if we decided to run, Ollie's faster than us and would catch him.
Yeah.
That's the worst part.
Yeah.
It's like, you probably ran about a 5.0, 5.2 or somewhere in there.
I think at my pro day, I hit a 5.1, I think was my top time. Now in my training, I hit like a 5.0, almost a 4.9, but I had lost like 30 pounds before I even hit that. So
Ollie, my favorite thing about people is like, I know people who like, they watch 40 times and draft scout combines and things. And like slender people just think breaking a 5 or a 40 is easy, that you can just do it. I'm like, guys, none of y'all can do this. None of y'all can do this.
That would be the worst. That would be the worst to get beat up by Ollie, and then he chases us down and beats us down again. Ollie, have a blessed day, sir. We love you, and we'll talk to you next week. Give us a score prediction on the game, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got the Vols winning 24-17. Like I said, I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. But, one thing that I was going to mention, I think these Tennessee players need to be fired up. I've seen it all over my ex-Twitter feed all week of these national sports writers. They're already counting that Georgia's won the game, and that's their path to the playoffs. And so if I'm seeing that as a player, and especially now, I'd look at that and fire me up and be like, no, I'm in their playoff chances tonight. Like, that's it. So
nice. Good stuff, Ollie. Buddy, you're the best. I appreciate it.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
I appreciate it. Let's get to Pat Dooley, longtime Florida columnist and reporter, and he is with WRUF after 60 seconds from our friends at TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TristarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, let's bring Pat Dooley in here now. Pat does a fantastic job. Pat, where all can we follow your work? And we appreciate the time, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we do the radio 5 days a week on WRUF, Jeff Cardozo and myself, and I do a podcast Monday and Thursday. Monday with Coach Spurrier, which is always fun, and still write for WRUF.com. So, but I'm still semi-retired.
Yeah, semi. You and John Adams are about the same. I'm sorry, Jimmy Himes are about the same when it comes to semi-retirement. I'm always trying to pull him to do more stuff. Pat, I want to discuss a couple things about Florida football and the fact that they may be stuck with Billy Napier for a couple of reasons that have been reported, and I wanted to see what you thought of that. But Tennessee fans have seen an athletic department that is in shambles from the top down. And ultimately, what's the bigger concern? The administration, Billy Napier's inept coaching at times, or a basketball coach that likes to cross the line when it comes to stalking?
Well, there's a lot of concerns. It was a rough weekend for Florida athletics last weekend, but we'll see on Todd Golden. The stories start to come out, and I keep wondering if they've got all this video evidence or pictures, why have they not just gone ahead and done it? So there's probably more to the story there than we know at this point. And I don't like to repeat rumors I hear, but at least I know that there's at least 2 sides to the story. Anyway, But it's almost like they should blow the whole thing up, and start from scratch, because clearly what is going on over there has not been good, and it's really tough for all the fans that are used to so much success, and it's just been ugly lately. And Billy Napier, look, I understand why Scott gave him the extension. It's not really an extension. If you look at the statement, he never says he'll be the coach next year. He says he'll be the coach. He is our coach, and that's all he's saying. And I believe he is doing everything right except for on the football field, and that's the problem. And that's where you've got to be able to do it right. You can build Vols for life. You can build brick by brick, but you can't, if you're not winning, it doesn't really matter. It's an empty, shell of coming to people and say, this is what we can do for your family. We can get you set up. We can get you ready for the next 40 years of your life. That's great, and we want to see all that. We want to see that on every campus. But if you go 4-8, nobody's going to care.
Pat, can I throw this at you? A couple of things that we've heard, and Caleb, you might want to jump on the Jaden Rashada thing. But one of the things that has been reported, I don't know if this is true, but you would, that there may be a bylaw where they can't fire Billy Napier if they don't have a president in place. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think it's a presidential decision. Now, can the president come in and say, you need to get rid of this guy? Yeah. But this is an athletic director decision. And he's the guy who does the firing. He's the guy who does the hiring. And so I don't know that. I'm not saying that's not true, but I have not heard that as a possibility. And obviously there is a president in place. He's an interim president, and he was the president before we had the Ben Sass experiment. But Kent Fox is a really smart guy, a really good dude. And I think, look, if he thinks he's getting enough pressure from boosters, he can go to the AD and say it's time. And I don't think that doesn't sound true. Of all the things that haven't made sense, this is just another one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Pat. And this is something I was on a podcast the other day, and somebody had told me that a Florida reporter told them that it's just a weird like loophole bylaw within the Florida law that within the university system that they can't do it. So I don't know how true it is. What about this one though? I've heard that there's rumors that they're waiting to see how the Jaden Rashada lawsuit plays out, because if Billy Napier is implicated in it, then they can fire him for cause and not have to pay his buyout. How true is that?
Could be true, could not be true. I mean, it's like everything in the world now. It feels like there's no transparency in college football anymore. There's no NIL transparency. There, some of the rules that we don't even know. We don't even know if you can cheat anymore. I think you can now. I mean, I'm trying to get Teddy Dupay's senior year back, because he got suspended for betting. Now it's perfectly fine. They just honored the 1984 team that won the SEC until Tennessee stole it away from them in Destin.
Same with 1985 and 1990, both those teams.
And 84 too. 84 won it too.
But Tennessee didn't win it in 84. They won it.
No, but Tennessee led the charge in Destin to get the vote to not let Florida have it. They already had the trophy. In fact, the trophy is here somewhere, and they wanted to bring it out when they honored the 84 team for the Kentucky game, and they were told to stand down. They said they don't want to bring the trophy out, because if they do, then everybody knows they have it and they can come get it. So, but that's neither here nor there. We'll see what goes on. Look, these last 3 games I still think are important for what's going on here. In a perfect world, Florida can win 2 of them, go to a bowl game, and recruiting won't suffer. They can get back going on recruiting, and they already have. They've already gotten some people coming in. That would be the ideal situation. The unideal situation would be you lose all 3. You don't look good in any of them. You still got 12 guys on the field. And once they can get all the stuff in place, they go ahead and pull the trigger.
Let me ask you this, Pat. There was a point in which Tennessee fans were openly rooting against some of their coaches, like Butch Jones, like Derek Dooley. Is it to the point where it's so acidic that it's like that? It's like some people actually want their team to lose in order for there to be a coaching and or AD change?
Well, I think it's a very, very small minority. Look, they've sold out almost every game. Actually, the one tomorrow is not sold out. There's still a few tickets left. But
Wow.
again, that has a lot to do with LSU not traveling this year. Usually they travel great, but they're not traveling because they're not happy with their coach right now. But yeah, no, they've sold for 3 years. They've sold out almost every game. People are they want it to get exciting. They want it to be fun. They want to win. They understand the pitfalls, and they certainly like Billy Napier as a person. But, he's got to win some games. That's the bottom line. I don't think people are rooting for Florida to lose very often. I mean, there may be a few, and I call them the Gidiots, the Gator idiots. Nobody should ever root for their team to lose. That's not your team if you're rooting for them to lose. You're just a bystander.
No, I'm rooting for my Titans to lose every game. I want the whole staff fired. I want the top draft pick. I want Will Levis off the team. I think it is in their best interest to lose.
Yeah, when it's NFL and you're dealing with people that are getting paid, of course, that's college football now, right?
Yeah, but nobody's getting a first-round draft pick if Florida loses to LSU. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, so Pat, it's funny you bring that up because we always hear about all the great off-field things that are done by a coach, and that's how and that's how they win. And we hear that a lot about Billy Napier. And you brought up a point about, you're right, it's just about winning. How much are these off-field things overvalued when a coach loses? They're like, oh, he shouldn't have done that or he shouldn't have done that, as opposed to they don't really matter. And I guess my example would be, funny enough, you have a podcast with Steve Spurrier, and theoretically, Steve Spurrier broke every off-field rule possible when he was coaching. And I feel like if he didn't win, that would have been used against him, right?
What off-field rules did Steve Spurrier break?
I mean, poking fun at unwritten off-field rules, poking fun at I'm saying people, had Spurrier not been a winner, people would have said that's why he didn't win, but that's not really why how overrated are those things?
Well, I think in the case of Spurrier, it was after he started winning when he started poking. And once he started winning, that gave him an amazing amount of the snowball started rolling down the hill. And nobody, I got to be honest with you, nobody thought Coach Spurrier was going to come in here and win the way he did. I mean, Florida just didn't do that, but he's been amazing. He did an amazing job. No, but if you're winning, if you're not winning and you're taking shots at people, it's not going to be a good look. It's never going to be a good look. It's when you're winning, and you don't have to take shots at people. But he's a big believer in Sun Tzu, and Sun Tzu says you shoot an arrow into the enemy camp to irritate him. And boy, he's taken that and run with it his whole life.
No, he has. Pat, last thing I want to ask you: you've got Scott Strickland, who's the AD. You've got Billy Napier, who has struggled, maybe the greatest man in the world, but as you mentioned, struggled on the field. And then you have Todd Golden, who is involved in this sexual harassment issue. If I made you predict which of the three, if any, are around for their next season?
Well, yeah, I would bet right now that Billy Napier will be around. I think Todd Golden will be around too. And we'll have to wait and see how that all goes. I mean, I don't think they would have let him coach or would let him coach tonight, if they thought there was more to this story. And we're going to have to see how it all plays out. There's rumors out there that I don't want to get into that maybe it's not a big deal. But, I mean, like I said, when Scott Strickland issued that statement, he never said he's going to be back next year. He just said he's our coach. And we'll see. But I think if all he's got to do is show some progress in these last 3 games. Now, that's not going to be easy, especially because Lagway could tweak that hamstring at 5 minutes into the game Saturday, and now you're back to having no chance to win the game. And also because you have a secondary that is totally decimated by injuries. So it's not going to be easy for them to show some life, but they better because what they need to do is beat LSU, which is not going to be easy, and then beat FSU, which they better do. And that would be, let me tell you what, if they lose to FSU, that'll be an easy pull. That'll be an easy, you are out of here.
You're gone. That takes me back to my umpire.
Throwing you out of the game.
Pat, I appreciate it, buddy. WRUF and yeah, your stuff with Spurrier is great. He's still so entertaining. So have a great weekend, my man.
Hey, I've got to point out here, I've got a GCM shirt on. I actually just today signed an NIL deal with this Gift Certificates and More, which is in town. So I get NIL money now and free swag. How about that? I'm all in favor of NIL.
That's pretty strong. Send me a link. Maybe we can make it work for Off the Hook Sports.
There we go. Yeah.
I appreciate it, Pat. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The great Pat Dooley joins us. His appearance brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. We have This Day in Tennessee Sports History coming up in 60 seconds. For Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. All right, Caleb, let's stay in Tennessee sports history. What do you got for us?
On this day back in 1986, with Billy Brewer as head coach of Ole Miss and Johnny Majors as head coach of Tennessee, the Vols were a very disappointing program. I just want to point out they had won the 1985 SEC title. We all know the great legendary Sugar Bowl that year. They finished in the top 5, and it seemed like the program was back, and they started the next year ranked number 10 in the nation, but they fell to a 2-5 start, Dave. Well, they regrouped to beat Memphis State on November the 8th, but a week later they went to number 20 ranked Ole Miss in Jackson, funny enough. And Ole Miss was a heavy favorite and was actually on track to win the SEC title. And Tennessee went and shocked them 22-10, ruining their best chance at an SEC title season. That spurred Tennessee winning out the rest of the way. They finished 7-5 after starting 2-5. So Johnny Majors was able to hold on. I mean, the late 80s teams, it was just it was insane levels of inconsistency. Just when you believed in them, they would screw up, and then just when you were done with them, they would turn it around.
So it's been about a week, but the Miracle at South Bend was like November the 7th or the 8th, I believe. And I was going back and looking at that during my insomnia last night. And the greatest part about that may have been, I know this is off topic, but may well have been when Johnny Majors afterwards goes, "Let me tell you something." He goes, "This is going to be one of the greatest comebacks in the history of Tennessee football. They'll be talking about it forever. And I'll tell you something. It's one of the greatest comebacks in football history, in college football, part of something special." And it was just like, I don't know. It made me think of you a little bit, Caleb, in the sanctity of the regular season, how that in and of itself, nobody thought, how does this best position Tennessee or Notre Dame for a college football playoff? They just thought, that was a great game that happened. And, the kick six is one that you pointed out on several different occasions, and how you're a big fan of players pooping in each other's shoes.
Yeah, that Miracle itself. It's funny you talk about that. Tennessee didn't win the SEC that year. They finished 9-3. It was Andy Kelly's last year. In many ways, it was a disappointing year because they started number 4. They returned a lot of talent from the 1990 team. Carl Pickens, Andy Kelly.
It was loaded.
But lost to Florida and Alabama on the road. But you still can look back on that year fondly because they beat Notre Dame on the road, which was such a legendary win. We can go back to 2003, Dave. Casey Clausen's senior year. They didn't win the SEC. They didn't finish in the top 10. They finished 10-3, lost the Peach Bowl to Clemson. But you can still look back on that Miami game and be like, you know what? That was just a great moment in Tennessee football history. And I just feel like with the college football playoff expanded now, you're never going to get those again.
No, I tend to agree with that. Last week brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We'll have your picks for you as Caleb has been red hot.
They're like, that is total bullshit.
We'll have that coming up. Brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We save the best for last. Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This show's represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here, 4th down.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Oh, we'll have your picks coming up. Last week brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We'll go ahead and get rolling on that right now. As I do want to remind you first, though, that portions of the program are we got multiple programs brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks, trucks that are just absolutely what you need, trucks that are available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work truck vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips, and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app, how to work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks with an X. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com. Don't risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment. Work Trucks, they'll have you outfitted and absolutely fit your needs to a T. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. Work Trucks with an X, unparalleled.com. So you got some picks for us, Caleb. Set me up here. How good do you feel about the weekend? How have you done to this point? As we do have
we're not really going to talk about how I've done to this point, guys.
Right.
I've had a really bad year of picks, maybe my worst ever.
Okay. Well, I was going to tell you that we have a gambling advertiser / sponsor. By the way, support our sponsors. That's why we're free. If you want to throw a super chat in there, you can. That'll go to Quincy Calhoun's college fund. 5 months old now and growing every day. And well, I hate that you say that because we were getting monitored by a gambling site that wanted to be a part of your picks and sponsor your picks. So now that you told them that you're just awful at it, I don't know if that's going to happen. So that could be the end of Off the Hook Sports. So no pressure on you, but it needs to get better quick.
Oh, well, once. Okay, fine. I'll do my best, Dave. We're going to start this week again. It's all SEC games because there's no top 25 games outside of the SEC. College football has a lot of fixing and soul searching to do because of that, because it's only going to get worse. Okay, a lot of SEC teams playing FCS schools this weekend, and it sucks. So let's get started, though, with one game I'm very intrigued by. Arkansas, Texas. I don't know if they're going to win, but I'm taking Arkansas plus 13 at home, and I'm going to take the under 57.5. I think Sam Pittman can make this a physical, ugly kind of game, and Texas's offense has been inconsistent. I'm saying Arkansas covers.
That's hot.
I'm with you. Who's next?
All righty. Louisiana Monroe at Auburn. I think I'm going to go Louisiana Monroe plus 24.5. And I'm going to take the under 46.5 just because I've been fading Auburn all year because they've been awful all year, and I still don't believe in them.
That's hot.
Okay, I'll roll with you on that. All right, who's next?
All right, so let's get some games that should not be played this weekend out of the way. Murray State at Kentucky. Yes, Murray State at Kentucky. I'm actually taking Murray State plus 38.5. And I'm taking the over 49.5. I think Kentucky's so banged up. They're going to let Murray State score a couple touchdowns on them. I think that's how this is going to go.
Here's what I'm going to do on this. When you get to a game that I have some sort of interest in, I will chime in.
Say wham.
All right, but it's not now. All right, keep going.
All right, next, one more game that I'm sorry I have to do. But Alabama Mercer. I think Alabama covers a 42.5 point spread, and I think they hit the over 57.5. I think Jalen Miller was good enough for them to just light it up.
Say wham.
Keep going.
All right, Florida LSU. DJ Lagway is playing. So I got Florida plus 3.5 at home with LSU maybe quitting on the season a little bit. I don't know if they win, but I think they cover the 3.5. But here's my big one, Dave. Over 55.5. These are two of the worst defenses in the SEC. Billy Napier's offense has come together. LSU has a good quarterback. I think that I see this game hitting the 80s, honestly.
That's hot.
I like both those picks. All right, Caleb, who's next?
All right. Missouri at South Carolina. This is an intriguing one. Everybody thinks Missouri is going to come crashing down because South Carolina's red hot, and that's going to be the story. I do think South Carolina is going to win, but I think plus 13.5 is a little – I think they're 13.5 point favorites.
South Carolina's a 13.5 point favorite?
Yeah, they are. I think that's a little too high. I think
that's a lot too high. I think South Carolina winning in like by 4.
I do too. I see like 31-27. So I say take Missouri plus 13.5. Take the over 41.5 because that's way too low. South Carolina wins. They're not winning by 2 touchdowns.
I will go ahead and tell you that I think other than I have a strong feeling on Tennessee, Georgia, and that Tennessee wins. I've shared that with you on Monday. That might be the easiest pick on the board to me, which means we'll both be wrong.
Yes, exactly. And then lastly, before we do, we'll do my best bets and do Tennessee, Georgia. But before that, Texas A&M, New Mexico State. I think Texas A&M covers a 39-point spread, and the game hits the over 54. Texas A&M realizes they're back in the college football playoff race, even with those 2 losses. So I think Texas A&M covers.
All righty, I like that. And let's get to the big-time games that matter. Last Look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me, no contacts, no glasses, thanks to LASIK vision correction done locally. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
So our poll question that's going to be up on the YouTube channel, we want you to go ahead and take part in that. The Vols will blank against Georgia. and that is win by 10 or less, win by 10 or more, or just lose. This is Vegas still thinks that Georgia is going to win. So I should be in the minority if we have an objective fan base, but we don't have to have an objective fan base because fandom isn't objective. It's short for fanatic. All right, Caleb, what are your best bets of the weekend?
So my best SEC bet, by the way, of all those I just labeled, is Florida LSU. I think the over 55.5 is an obvi. I don't know if you agree with me on that, Dave, but I think there's going to be scoring in that game like nobody's business.
I totally agree with that.
That's hot.
All right.
So I have a best other SEC bet, but we're saving that because it applies to Tennessee. But we'll get to that. But first, best bets nationally outside of the SEC.
It's a good tease, by the way.
Thank you. Cal versus Syracuse. Cal's 9.5-point favorites, but Dave, I'm following your logic. Syracuse has to go to Cal. Flight from New York to California. I think Cal covers 9.5.
Will they leave on a Thursday? That was something that James Franklin did.
I have no idea, but even if you leave on a Thursday, you can be jet lagged until a Saturday sometimes.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it. I mean, it's just the dumbest thing in the world, the fact that the Big Ten stretches over 4 time zones.
Well, this is the ACC.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The fact that any conference stretches over 4 time zones, it's as dumb as having an NFL team in London. Quality Tire Pros, they're certainly not dumb. They called me and gave me an honest assessment of my car, said we can fix these things on your daughter's car, but honestly, I'm not sure that it's worth it. So we're putting some tires on that puppy and rolling with it. And that's what they are. They're honest, great people. So if you're in the Chattanooga area, stop by and tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello, qualitytirepros.com. Who's next, Caleb?
All right. So do you agree with me, Cal covers, since they're at home?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Right.
And I think that's an easy call.
All right. The other one is Louisville has to travel to Stanford. Louisville is favored by 20.5. I say take Stanford plus 20.5 playing at home. Stanford will lose, but they're not going to lose by 20.5.
I'm going to disagree with you there.
That is total bullshit.
I just don't think Stanford has anything going for them whatsoever. All right. Who's next?
All right. Well, okay. So national over-under and Superdog for Tennessee. Clemson and Pittsburgh, the over-under's at 52.5. I say go way on the over. I think both these offenses will light it up. So both these teams still have outside shot at the college football playoff to play for. This is to go play for the ACC title. I think it'll be an exciting one to watch, but take the over.
Okay. Our poll question: Vols will win by 10 or less. Has 50% win by more than 10. 32% lose. 21%. All right. Who's next, Caleb?
All right, and my under of the week, and then I'll let you. We'll debate on our Superdog because you'd be interested in that. But my under of the week is UCLA at Washington. I say take the under 46.5. I think Washington just plays ugly football in the Northwest, and they'll keep it at the under.
That is total.
Oh, wrong button. I agree with you on that one. Okay. All right. What's your last Superdog?
I got 2 Superdogs, and I'm debating which way to go. There's 2 upsets. One of these teams is going to get upset this weekend. I just don't know who. Either Virginia's going to upset Notre Dame or Wisconsin's going to upset Oregon. I'm going to go Wisconsin upsets Oregon.
See, I'm going to go Virginia upsets Notre Dame.
Okay, I can't fault you for that, but like home field advantage has meant more this year in college football than ever before. So Oregon having to go to Wisconsin, I think I don't know. I think Wisconsin just got the break speed off of them by Iowa, but they had a bye. They were refreshed. Oregon's going to. This feels like that Tennessee-Arkansas game.
Yep. I could see that. Wood Duck says I've got Georgia 42-7. Richard says I've got 27-21 Vols. Nolan says I'm calling my shot. Nico has 180 yards, touchdown. Sampson has 100 yards and 2 TDs, and Tennessee wins 24-13. I, for the record, have 23-20 is my official pick. Caleb, what is your official pick for Tennessee?
So Tennessee, Georgia. This is the best play of all unders in college football this year. The over under is set at 47.5. I think the under hits easily in this one. I'm like extremely highly.
Somebody told me that you could get that for like 56 on Sunday.
Jesus, who said it at 56?
I don't know, but that to me, if I don't gamble, but there are numbers that I see every once in a while that like I think of firing up an app. And we'll tell you which one next week. But that would have been one of them that I probably would have put money on it. Have I ever told you about my gambling, my parlay into gambling?
No, go ahead and tell before I get my pick. Go ahead and tell the story.
Okay, I did like our betting analyst that I know. We may have him on sometime. His name's Tyler Wyatt. He does a great job. So I followed his picks, and he bet on regular season baseball and did really well, which I didn't think you were ever supposed to bet on baseball. That was an impossible sport to win, but that's actually what he did best on. So I was up like $300 just betting $5 a game on like 4 games a day. He calls them units, but it means dollars. So it depends where your level is. And then the Kentucky Derby came along, and I felt sure that this one horse was going to win. So I took all my winnings. I was up $200 just betting $5 here and there. I took it all and put it on a 30-1 horse, and it finished like 8th. And my wife looked at me and said, "That's the end of your gambling. You have your vices, and this is not going to be a new one." So that was the end of it.
Oh my gosh. The rule is you take a certain percentage of your winnings and do it. That's how you go, Dave.
I felt so sure. I felt so sure because the horse was 30-1 when I got it and actually moved to 4-1. So I got great value on the horse. And that $200 would have been what? $4,000. Does that sound right? Or $200?
I think so.
30? I don't know. We're good at writing, not math.
Well, my prediction is yes, Tennessee covers a 10-point spread. I think that's another easy one. Tennessee plus 10. But I'm sorry, guys. I don't think they're going to win. I got Georgia 21-17-ish. I'm going to go 21-17. Georgia
what
wins.
A downer you are.
Like that is totally.
I'm objective, is what I am. But I would not be the least bit shocked if Tennessee won.
When I am too, and people were surprised when I picked Alabama because I was slightly down on the Vols. I think this is as much about Georgia isn't as great as they've been, just like Alabama wasn't as great as they have been. And I do agree a lot with what Ollie Lane said earlier on the program, and we appreciate his appearance. I think they're desperate, and I think that plays against them in a second half tussle. As we reported earlier, we believe Nico Iamaleava is going to play. I think he will play and play well. I think that ultimately, though, Tennessee will be able to control the clock, run the football, as I like the Cooper Mays versus Nazir. What was his last name again?
Nazir Stackhouse.
Stackhouse. I watched a lot of his tape last night. I think at worst, that's a stalemate for Tennessee, which a stalemate, if you can get one-on-one against a guy like that, that's a nose guard, is a win. Typically, it takes 2 or 3 guys to block a guy like that. I think that can be a stalemate. I think Tennessee's going to be able to run the football. And I think that Tennessee's defense keeps them in a game no matter what happens. And ultimately, I think Carson Beck is probably the most overrated. I don't want to be too strong on this, but how about most overrated household name in the South when it comes to sports? Like, come up with one that's more overrated. I mean, that we know that was a Heisman candidate, that was a potential NFL MVP candidate. By the way, this is off topic, and I was sorry to go long here. I hope you enjoy this. I was watching the Eagles game last night. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be what Nico will be in 5 years. Very similar running style. And we can talk more about that at another time. But I think once he puts weight on, Hurts is a big dude. And that's a pretty good comparison. I know he got benched at Alabama, but he's gone on to have a great career. And I think they'll do things in the run game a little bit differently with him moving forward. Now, we're talking about next year, but what do you think about that comparison, just off the fly, off the cuff?
I think Jalen Hurts is always going to be way too limited throwing the ball. Nico will be able to make some throws that Jalen Hurts just can't make.
Okay.
I mean, Jalen Hurts is...
I guess I just meant strictly from a running perspective. The way he reaches, extends plays, he had a key first down on which he reached for the goal line. They just move similar to me. But you're right. His passing arm's probably better.
Yeah, Nico's passing arm's way better. Jalen Hurts is very... I mean, I applaud what the Eagles did with him because, Dave, let's be honest. 15 years ago in the NFL, Jalen Hurts never would have made it.
Okay.
And
well, I'll take that back. I'll just take it all back. Hit the like and subscribe button. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We'll be with you after the game. Last Look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. So if you haven't subscribed yet and turned on those notifications, please do so. For Caleb, I'm Dave. I got Vols winning again, 23-20. The show represented by Banks